Once is happenstance. Twice is coincidence. 3 times is enemy action. Never say no to adventures. Always say yes, otherwise you'll lead a very dull life. I shall not waste my days in trying to prolong them. You only live twice. Once when you are born, and once when you look death in the face. Most marriages don't add 2 people together. They subtract one from the other. If I wait for the genius to come, it just doesn't arrive. I'm not in the Shakespeare stakes. I have no ambition. A horse is dangerous at both ends and uncomfortable in the middle. Today we are fighting communism. Okay. If I'd been alive 50 years ago, the brand of conservatism we have today would have been damn near called communism, and we should have been told to go and fight that. History is moving pretty quickly these days, and the heroes and villains keep on changing parts. It was the short men that caused all the trouble in the world. Older women are best, because they always think they may be doing it for the last time. Bond reflected that good Americans were fine people and that most of them seemed to come from Texas. I was just on the edge of getting married, and I was frenzied at the prospect of this great step in my life after having been a bachelor for so long. And I really wanted to take my mind off of the agony, and so I decided to sit down and write a book. I am a poet in deeds, not often in words. The distance between insanity and genius is measured only by success. A woman can put up with almost anything but indifference. Unfortunately, most ways of making big money take a long time. By the time one has made the money, one is too old to enjoy it. Worry is a dividend paid to disaster before it is due. There is only one recipe for a bestseller, and it is a very simple one. You have to get the reader to turn over the page. Hope makes a good breakfast. Eat plenty of it. All the greatest men are maniacs. They are possessed by a mania which drives them forward towards their goal. The great scientists, the philosophers, the religious leaders, all maniacs. What else but a blind singleness of purpose could have given focus to their genius, would have kept them in the groove of purpose? Mania is as priceless as genius. I always make it a rule never to look back. Otherwise, I'd ask myself how I could write such piffle and live with myself, day after day. It's just that I'd rather die of drink than of thirst. Loneliness becomes a lover, solitude a darling sin. The gain to the winner is always less than the loss to the loser. Everyone has the revolver of resignation in his pocket. Everything I write has a precedent in truth. Surround yourself with human beings, my dear James. They are easier to fight for than principles. I think it's the same with all the relationships between a man and a woman. They can survive anything so long as some kind of basic humanity exists between the two people. When all kindness has gone, when one person obviously and sincerely doesn't care if the other is alive or dead, then it's just no good. If you interrupt the writing of fast narrative with too much introspection and self-criticism, you will be lucky if you write 500 words a day, and you will be disgusted with them into the bargain. By following my formula, you write 2,000 words a day and you aren't disgusted with them until the book is finished, which will be in about 6 weeks. When I wrote the first Bond novel, in 1953, I wanted Bond to be an extremely dull, uninteresting man to whom things happened. When I was casting around for a name for my protagonist, I thought, by God, James Bond is the dullest name I ever heard. As a result of 50 years of emancipation, feminine qualities were dying out or being transferred to the males. Pansies of both sexes were everywhere, not yet completely homosexual, but confused, not knowing what they were. The result was a herd of unhappy sexual misfits. The women wanting to dominate and the men to be nanny. Men want a woman whom they can turn on and off like a light switch. People do connect me with James Bond simply because I happen to like scrambled eggs and short-sleeved shirts and some of the things that James Bond does, but I certainly haven't got his guts nor his very lively appetites. Before a man's 40, girls cost nothing. After that you have to pay money, or tell a story. Of the two, it's the story that hurts most. Anyway, I'm not 40 yet. I have always smoked and drunk and loved too much. In fact, I have lived not too long but too much. One day the iron crab will get me. Then I shall have died of living too much. At gambling, the deadly sin is to mistake bad play for bad luck. Prohibition is the trigger of crime. The difference between a good golf shot and a bad one is the same as the difference between a beautiful and a plain woman, a matter of millimeters. Follow your fate, and be satisfied with it, and be glad not to be a second-hand motor salesman, or a yellow press journalist, pickled in gin and nicotine, or a cripple, or dead. Love of life is born of the awareness of death, of the dread of it. If you fail at the large things, it means you have not large ambitions. Concentration, focus, that is all. The aptitudes come, the tools forge themselves. I think it's the same with all the relationships between a man and a woman. They can survive anything so long as some kind of basic humanity exists between the two people. When all kindness has gone, when one person obviously and sincerely doesn't care if the other is alive or dead, then it's just no good. Worry is a dividend paid to disaster before it is due. Once a king, always a king. But once a knight is enough. The world is not enough. Loneliness becomes a lover, solitude a darling sin. Smoking I find the most ridiculous of all the varieties of human behavior and practically the only one that is entirely against nature. Can you imagine a cow or any animal taking a mouthful of smoldering straw, then breathing in the smoke and blowing it out through its nostrils? I have discovered that even the mediocre can have adventures and even the fearful can achieve. When the odds are hopeless, when all seems to be lost, then is the time to be calm, to make a show of authority, at least of indifference. Power is the goal of all ambition. Our prisons are full of people who think they're Napoleon or God. One can't grasp more than a piece of anyone. Most of the rest can only be protected by themselves and the remainder by hired specialists and doctors and dentists and professional protectors. It's no good protecting people or even looking after them past a certain point. You are about to awake when you dream that you are dreaming.